He thought he was untouchable, a cop with years of experience, a badge that gave him power, and the belief that no one could ever question him. But when Officer Brad Simmons pulled over a black man for a routine stop, he had no idea that he was about to cross paths with the last person he'd ever want to face. What started as a simple traffic stop escalated quickly. And what Simmons didn't know? The man he was about to target wasn't just anyone. He was the head of internal affairs. It was a calm evening when James Carter, a 32-year-old attorney, was driving home from a long day at work. His mind was on the case he had been working on and the day ahead, but he didn't expect to be pulled over by the flashing lights in his rearview mirror. "Not tonight," James muttered under his breath. He'd been pulled over plenty of times before, but something about this stop felt different. He kept his hands on the wheel as he pulled over to the side of the road, his instincts telling him that this was going to escalate quickly. Officer Brad Simmons stepped out of his squad car. The officer was tall, with a stern expression, his uniform pressed and his demeanor one of authority. "License and registration," he barked as he approached James's window. "Good evening, officer. What seems to be the issue?" "You were speeding," Simmons said, eyeing James with a strange intensity. "And you failed to signal when you changed lanes." James remained calm, thinking this was a misunderstanding. "I didn't change lanes without signaling, officer. I've checked my speed and I was going within the limit." Simmons didn't acknowledge his statement. "Step out of the vehicle," he commanded. James felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "I'm not sure what this is about, but I'd like to know why I'm being pulled over." Simmons' expression grew colder. "You're under arrest for obstruction." James' confusion quickly turned to frustration. "For a broken taillight? This is ridiculous." Simmons grabbed his wrist, yanking him from the car. "Don't resist," he barked as he slammed the cuffs too tight around James's wrists. James's mind raced as he was pushed into the back of the patrol car. He had been arrested before, but not like this. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just about a broken taillight or a simple traffic violation. Officer Simmons was escalating the situation unnecessarily. "You're going to regret this," James said, his voice firm but calm. "You can't just arrest people for no reason." But Simmons wasn't listening. The officer was too far gone in his need to exert control. He muttered under his breath as he drove, the car moving quickly toward the police station. James sat silently, his mind calculating. He wasn't afraid. He had been in tough situations before, but this was something different. The officer wasn't acting professionally. He was acting with malice. The next morning, James found himself sitting in a courtroom facing charges that made no sense. Resisting arrest? Obstruction of justice? The charges were based on Simmons's word, and everyone in the courtroom seemed to believe the officer without question. James's lawyer, Claire Davidson, was ready to fight. She was sharp, prepared, and fully aware of what was at stake. The evidence was flimsy at best, and James knew they would prove he'd done nothing wrong. But when Officer Simmons took the stand, his confidence was overwhelming. "The defendant resisted arrest," Simmons said, his voice dripping with authority. "I had no choice but to subdue him. He was hostile, defiant, and uncooperative." James couldn't help but smirk. The officer had no idea what was coming. "I did not resist arrest," James said, calmly standing up. "I simply asked for clarification when I was detained, and I was not hostile or uncooperative." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" Claire Davidson stepped forward. "Your Honor, I request the dashcam footage be reviewed. It will show that Officer Simmons's statement is false." The courtroom fell silent as the dashcam footage was played. The video clearly showed James not resisting, not fighting, and simply asking for clarity when Simmons began to escalate the situation. James's lawyer looked at the judge, her eyes sharp.
Officer Simmons did not handle the situation with professionalism. He abused his power to escalate a routine traffic stop into an arrest. The prosecutor's face faltered. This wasn't the slam-dunk case they thought it was. James didn't stop there. He knew that Simmons wasn't just a rogue cop. He was part of something much bigger. "I am the head of internal affairs for this precinct. The officer you see in front of you, Officer Brad Simmons, has a history of misconduct, excessive force, corruption, and abuse of power." The courtroom went dead silent. Everyone was stunned. The prosecutor stood frozen, unable to speak. Simmons's face drained of color. He couldn't hide his panic. "I've been tracking his behavior for months. The department has been aware of his actions, and they've allowed him to continue without consequence." The judge, shocked by the revelation, looked at Simmons. "Is this true, Officer Simmons?" Simmons' mouth opened, but no words came out. He could only shake his head in disbelief, realizing the magnitude of his mistake. He had picked the wrong person to mess with. Before anyone could react, a man in a dark suit entered the courtroom. He walked with purpose, a badge visible at his side. "I'm Agent Harper from the FBI. I'm here to take over this investigation." James's heart skipped a beat. The FBI? He didn't know this case was part of a federal investigation. "We've been tracking Officer Simmons and his associates for months. What Mr. Carter has exposed today is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a larger network of corruption within this department, and it ends now." Simmons's face turned white as he realized that he wasn't just facing a courtroom battle. He was facing criminal charges from the FBI. The weight of the situation hit him like a truck. Just as the judge prepared to rule, the lights in the courtroom flickered. The power went out for a few seconds, and when the lights came back on, Officer Simmons was gone. The room went into chaos. The FBI agent scrambled to secure the area. The judge looked around, confused, as if something was very wrong. James stood there, his mind racing. The power had gone out at the exact moment Simmons had been about to face justice. Was it coincidence, or was someone behind the scenes making sure Simmons wouldn't be caught? James pulled out his phone. It buzzed with an urgent message. "James, the people behind this aren't done yet. You've exposed one part of their operation, but there's more. They'll come for you next." Before James could process the message, a cold voice from the back of the courtroom echoed, "You think you've won. This is just the beginning."
As the lights flickered and the courtroom plunged into darkness once again, the chaotic scene seemed to freeze in time. People shouted, scrambling to find their bearings in the disorienting blackness. James stood motionless, his mind racing. The message on his phone echoed in his mind. "They'll come for you next." The FBI agents rushed to secure the exits, their faces drawn tight with concern. Someone was orchestrating this, and Simmons's sudden disappearance only added to the tension. The room was filled with a sense of impending danger, a palpable threat that seemed to loom over everyone present. Suddenly, a voice broke through the darkness. "You think you've won, Carter? This is just the beginning." James's heart raced as he turned toward the source of the voice. He could feel the intensity of the moment, the weight of something far bigger than just this courtroom drama. But who had spoken? Who was still here? Before he could react, the lights flickered back on, but Officer Simmons was gone, vanished as if swallowed up by the very shadows that had engulfed the room. The tension in the air only deepened, and a sense of dread filled the space. James was taken aback, standing there in stunned silence. He exchanged a quick look with Claire, his lawyer. The FBI agents were already talking amongst themselves, trying to make sense of Simmons's disappearance. "Who was that voice?" James asked, his voice low. Claire shook her head, her brow furrowed with confusion. "I have no idea.
But it's clear this is much bigger than just Simmons. We're dealing with something dangerous here. James's mind raced as he processed the situation. He had uncovered Simmons's corruption, but now it felt like he was only scratching the surface. This wasn't just about one rogue officer. It was about a network, a system of corruption embedded deep within the department. And whoever was behind it had the power to make people disappear. "Agent Harper," James called out, catching the attention of the FBI agent who had been overseeing the investigation. "I need to know what's really going on here. Who's behind this? Who's pulling the strings?" Harper looked at James, his face a mix of determination and concern. "We've been tracking this network for months, but Simmons was just one piece of the puzzle. There are others, higher-ups, people with a lot of influence, who are trying to cover up the truth." James nodded grimly. "And now they're coming for me." Harper hesitated before responding. "We've had people in the department feeding us information, but we can't always trust everyone. Whoever's behind this network is good at hiding in the shadows, and they'll stop at nothing to keep their operations going." As the courtroom cleared, James and Claire were escorted out by FBI agents. The building was buzzing with questions, but James was too focused on the larger picture. He had come to court thinking he was just fighting for justice against one corrupt officer. Now, it felt like he was part of a much larger conspiracy, one that he couldn't easily escape from. As they walked to the car, James's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, an encrypted message from an unknown number. "You've exposed us. Now you're a target. Do yourself a favor, Carter. Stay out of the spotlight, or you'll regret it. You've already made enemies you can't afford to have." The warning sent a chill down his spine. His phone buzzed again almost immediately after, but this time it was a call. James answered it, his voice tight with tension. "Carter," a calm, almost cold voice spoke on the other end. "I hope you're ready for what comes next. You've stepped into a war that's been going on for years, and now you're in it too." James's heart raced as the line went dead. He stood frozen for a moment, unsure how to react. Claire turned to him, a concerned look on her face. "James, we need to be careful. This isn't just a fight against one corrupt officer. It's a fight against a whole system. Whoever's behind this won't stop until they silence you." James's mind raced. Who could he trust? How deep did this network go? He was the head of internal affairs, and yet he felt like he was up against an invisible force that no one could see. It was the system itself, designed to protect those who were supposed to uphold the law, and it was clear he was in over his head. The next day, James received an unexpected visitor at his office. Agent Harper. "I've got news," Harper said, sitting down across from James. His face was grim, his posture tense. "What's going on?" James asked, his tone sharp. "We've been able to trace the network further, and there's someone inside internal affairs working with them. We've identified several officers involved in this ring, but there's a key player who's been protecting Simmons and other corrupt officers. Someone you work with directly." James's stomach dropped. "What do you mean, someone I work with?" "Someone high up in your department. Someone you trust." James couldn't breathe. He thought of the people he worked with, the faces he trusted. But one name stood out. Someone he had been working closely with on previous cases. "You don't think it's—" James began, as the realization hit him. Harper nodded. "Yes, we think you've been betrayed from the inside." As the weight of the betrayal sank in, James's phone buzzed once more. This time the message was more cryptic. "You can't win. We have eyes everywhere. Step back, or we'll make sure this goes farther than just you." James slammed the phone down, his mind whirling. Who could he trust now? This had gone from an investigation into one corrupt officer to something much bigger. Someone in his own department,
Possibly even someone close to him was working against him. Just as he was about to say something to Claire, the office door burst open and a figure stepped inside. It was Detective Harris, a senior officer from the precinct, one of the last people James had expected. "I think it's time we talked," Harris said, his eyes cold and calculating. James's heart sank. Could it be? Was Harris the one behind it all? The one pulling the strings? "Talk about what?" James asked, his voice sharp. Harris smiled faintly. "About how you're playing a game you don't understand, and about what happens when you step into the arena." James took a step back, his eyes narrowing. "I'm not playing any game." Harris leaned forward. "We'll see, won't we?" As the tension between them built, James knew one thing for sure. The fight wasn't over. It was just getting started. What do you think will happen next? Who is the traitor inside internal affairs? Can James trust Agent Harper, or is he part of the network too? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.